Capture the passion.
Welcome back to CPTP Season 4, Episode 5. Today, our conversation is about intergenerational trauma and parenting. We have a very special guest, Miss Monica Guzman, makeup artist. Monica, tell us about yourself.
Yes, Monica Guzman. I've been a makeup artist for over 15 years. Started at 19. I specialize in beauty and editorial makeup. So that's, makeup campaigns, some actors, but definitely makeup and magazine work is my passion.
Nice.
And I am also a full-time mom to my son Joaquin, who's actually who was a student of yours.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Can we do this retake, but you make me up so I can look better?
No, you're so beautiful. No, we don't need that. No. No, you're so pretty. You're good.
Thank you.
You're good. I swear that's every man's response to me.
Really?
I swear. You guys got to get a new line.
Because look, it's a compliment, so let's just take it and go with it.
It's so funny. I swear, if I had a dime for every time a man has said that to me, I mean, I would be balling.
So what has been some big projects that you've worked on as a makeup artist?
I just did one for a very high-end jewelry brand that they do celebrities and things like that. I was around millions of dollars in jewels, and that was pretty exciting. I've done an actor, a very famous actor. I've done his wife. I've done a film, a documentary.
Do you ever get starstruck?
I try not to. I haven't been around too many celebrities, but the ones I have been around, I just act like not even there.
No big deal.
Yeah, like no big deal.
But deep down inside, what's going on?
Really nothing, because I kind of go on autopilot when I do makeup.
You focus on your passion.
Yeah, I have to. I'm there for a job at the end of the day, and believe it or not, you have to remain professional.
Yeah.
And they're like, hurry up.
I gotta go.
Exactly. So, but it's fun.
So now let's talk about your other passion, parenting. I had the privilege to work with your son at Pacific Oaks Children's School. And every time you guys would ask, I would always tell you, we have fun. That's all we do.
Yes.
As a child development advocate, one of the things that I enjoy doing is developing children to their full potential. And that's something that I take a lot of pride in doing, especially what you're talking about. As a parent, has there been any challenges that you have gone through that you don't want Joaquin to go through because of your childhood?
I mean, yeah, that's such a loaded question.
Right. Let's go. We got time.
I know, right? Well, not much time in that sense, but
Well, let's go back. Let's go back to your childhood.
Yeah,
Where did you grow up at, and what was it like?
So I actually went back and forth between East LA and Southgate.
Mm-hmm.
So I moved around a lot as a kid. And that was pretty tough.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And what was it like? Tough in what way? Tough as it just moving around, or what was the environment like?
The environment was really hard.
Mm-hmm.
So, unfortunately, at the age of 4, my father, passed away, and my mom was, I think, 21 or 22 years old with 2 kids. So she had my sister at 16, and then me, and then shortly after my dad got out of prison, he was, killed. So that was really hard on my mom, I assume. I mean, and then just we kind of absorbed everything that she went through.
Mm-hmm.
So our environment was very unstable.
Right.
And then just my mother alone was a very difficult person to, be around.
Yeah. In retrospect, now as an adult, having a different perspective as a mother, do you understand what your mother was going through?
Yes.
Obviously, as a child, we
Yes
don't, right?
and no.
Okay, talk to us.
Yeah, because I could only imagine at 22 years old,
Right.
having two children, having your husband dead and being alone. I don't even know how I would function, right? But the choices that she made, I'm gonna get a lot of slack for this because and this is just my opinion now as a mother. I always hear I did the best I could.
Right.
To me, I'm like, that was your best. And that's very hard for a lot of people to hear.
Right.
And I always tell people, unfortunately, I don't have that gene where, well, that's my mom, that's my dad, but I don't know what happened to it.
Yeah.
But for me, there's no excuse or I don't understand how you cannot want to bring up your child differently than the way you were brought up, especially when there's been abuse and trauma and physical, mental, emotional abuse. How could you not want to be different?
Right. And that's where you're at now as a mother, where you've understood, conceptualized what your child was like, and that's not what you want for your son.
Right.
So what are some things that you have consciously changed to avoid following that path?
The abuse is not there. I don't touch my son. Like,
has that been hard?
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, no, I understand, and I don't understand.
He's a great kid though, and we've had conversations about the way we were raised, and one of the things that we talked about was spanking.
Yeah.
Growing up for me in a very traditional Mexican culture, spanking was the way to raise kids.
Yes.
And the idea that if I don't spank you, then I'm going to spoil you, and I don't want to spoil you. So the way that I make you be disciplined is through spanking. So
and fear.
And fear, right.
Like,
but you don't practice that. So how difficult has that been, not imposing that on your son despite you being raised in that environment?
It's been like, it's because I was so heavily abused. It's been easy. But then again, I have a hard time with myself understanding why I feel the urge to want to take out my frustration out on a child. Right. Like, why does our mind do that? I don't understand it. So I just walk away. And I think, yes, it's been very hard. But then again, it hasn't, because of the amount of abuse I received as a kid, that I don't want him to feel like that.
So it sounds like if it's still present in your mind, to know that, hey, I'm feeling this way, I don't want to do that to him because I know what that feels like.
100%.
And I don't want him to go through that because I feel that effect now as an adult.
100%. Yeah.
How it was. Has there been any type of work that you've done with yourself to get to that point?
You know what? It's so funny. Like, I did 4 years of hardcore therapy.
What's hardcore therapy?
Like, I would go like 2-3 times a week for years, because that's how messed up I was. But then, even as a kid, my mother and I obviously butted heads a lot. And I always used to say to myself, like, why am I here? Yeah. Like, if you didn't want me, why am I here? And I've always said, like, anybody can have a kid, anybody can have a child. It's a whole different thing to be an actual parent, mother, father, to want to build that relationship. Like, I don't think my mother cared to build that relationship of, that emotional bond that you have with your child. So, sorry, I got kind of lost there.
You're good. You talk about emotional bond, attachment, and the importance of attachment. There's a lot of research by John Bowlby and Ainsworth that talk about building that emotional bond.
Yeah. Is
not just short-term, but long-term effects that are positive outcomes or better outcomes for a child. What are some strategies that you are practicing with your son that you maybe wish you had with your mom?
I ask him how he feels a lot.
Yeah,
I'm always,
I would hear that a lot in the class with you guys.
yeah, and it makes me really sad. As I told you, I'm going through somatic coaching, which has to do a lot with our nervous system. Um, I see the way my son responds to things, and he's very, for lack of a better word, dramatic. He doesn't know how to process the feelings, right? And I'm just always like, why are you feeling like this? Why? And sometimes he can't even give me an answer.
Right.
And I'm just trying to help him process what's happening. So for instance, as a child, I lost my dad. My mother was not present. And even when she was present, what it felt like was a burden to her. And we never got asked, are you okay? My mother really never hugged me.
Right.
So, just feeling like to be able to rely on someone emotionally, right. I didn't have that.
Right. And that's what you're doing.
Yes.
But let's go back to somatic therapy. Tell us more about what type of therapy is that?
So I'm not an expert by any means,
no,
but I'm still learning
your
myself.
Yes.
It has a lot to do with your nervous system and how we respond to things. For instance, have you ever heard of doom scrolling when you're stuck on your phone and you're frozen and you just keep going and going? That's your nervous system, and that actually prevents me from getting work done sometimes. So I'm trying to figure out and process what's happening to my body, and being mindful of what's happening. So I'm trying to work on it. It'll never go away, is what I've learned. It won't go away, but you can just help yourself.
Right.
Process your feelings and process what's happening.
So it sounds like if it's understanding what your triggers are,
yes,
and then redirecting them so they don't respond the way they've been conditioned to respond.
And even if you do respond that way, how are we going to get out of it?
Right.
How are we going? That's the biggest thing for me. Is like, how am I going to get out of it?
Yeah. There's some little research that I've been doing on my own about trauma. Is like you talked about the way our nervous system responds, and a lot of the times we're caught in that situation, fight, flight, or freeze, and usually the way we respond because we've been conditioned to respond that way. So how we reprogram that is to be consciously aware and understand, okay, this is what's going to happen, but I'm not going to respond that way. You're triggering me based on what you're saying, where before my reaction was to smack you. I know I'm being triggered, but I'm going to respond different, training my nervous system to respond a different way. That sounds fascinating. And have you found that to be helpful with you?
Yes. More on a personal basis because of my career. As you know, I'm a makeup artist, so I do have, I am artistic in that way, and it is very hard to put myself out there because, again, my nervous system is trained to hide. Right. All I want to do is hide because I'm scared all the time.
So would it be the flight or the freeze?
I freeze a lot.
Freeze. Okay.
Freeze. I freeze, and I'm like, I need to get out. Like, how do I get out of this? And one thing I learned was tapping, just gently tapping on your body. I had no idea. So all these little things that, well, they may seem little at the time, they're really holding me back in my career. And I want to be successful, I want to get out there. There's so much to do. And it's been really helpful for me.
The tapping, you're soothing.
Yeah, that's how I soothe myself. Yeah.
I got it. Fine. Which, when you said that, it prompted me to how, as children, last season we brought in the school therapist, Glenn, and he asked me if my parents loved me. and I remember sitting here thinking and responding, I never doubted their love. I just wish I heard it more. And my way of soothing that is I make sure that every opportunity that I get to tell my girls that I love them, I love them. And it's not just to say it it's to say it because that's how I feel.
Right.
And it's soothing myself, which is doing that therapy, but it's also building on that attachment with them.
It's so funny that you say that because I find myself, and it's really sad, not wanting to be so affectionate with my own child because I want to raise him tough. Yeah. And I'm just like, why? He doesn't need to be tough. He's a kid. Yeah. But I had to be. Mm-hmm. So it's like, well, I don't want him to get too attached to me. Why? Why don't I want my own child to be attached to me? Because of the way I was brought up.
Can you see that? Can you see that the way your nervous system is responding is a reflection of what you went through?
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Like, so like I was told that around, I did a coaching and for somatic, and I was telling her, like, I feel fear every time I'm going or interacting with a client mm-hmm. to do makeup. I'm afraid that I'm going to lose my client. Mm-hmm. And so she starts asking me all these questions, and she's like, at what age did you start to feel fear? And I was like 7 or 8 years old. And she was like, it's around that time that we start to see the world for what it really is. Yeah. And I was like, great. I'm like, great. Then that's just, that just goes out the window.
That's how many years mm-hmm. your nervous system has responded that way. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'm curious to know, what do you want your child to be tough?
Ooh, well, we had a conversation about this. Okay, so essentially I'm going to say yes. Mm-hmm.
I know we had this conversation.
I know, right?
I know that conversation. That was probably one of our first conversations mm-hmm. that we had, and I remember reflecting on that, thinking, I hope she's not mad. I hope
my God, no.
I hope she like understands what the conversation meant and not take it as I'm telling you need to do this, you need to do that.
Oh my gosh, no, never. Like, like I'm not like that, seriously. It's so funny.
As we developed our relationship, it was like, wait, she's totally not like that. Alejandro's not like that. And
no.
Which is evident why Joaquin is not like that.
No. So essentially, yes, I do want him to be tough, mm-hmm. but it's because of all the bad things that have happened to me. Like, I'm very jaded, unfortunately, mm-hmm. and very careful of who I get close to. Right. And I don't want him to experience pain.
Because you know what pain feels like.
Yes.
Because you've been let down.
Disappointment.
Right.
Betrayal.
Right.
Heartbreak. All that.
Sadness, depression.
If it were up to me, I wouldn't have had a kid, put it to you like that. Right. So, because I can't protect him from all the ugliness in the world. Right. From people, I can't protect him from that. And that kills me. Yeah.
So let me ask Monica. Not your nervous system, but let me ask you.
We'll try. I'm going to try.
Do you want your son to be tough? Not your nervous system. Let me ask you.
I do. And that's only because I know what the real world is.
Let me ask you this. Do you think that he's going to go through everything you went through?
Oh my God, no. No.
So then is there a need for him to be tough?
I think in some sense, yes, because seeing, I've obviously been put in a new dynamic being at a private school. Right. Okay. Right. The way we are brought up, the other students he's being brought up mm-hmm. has been completely different than his even. And I'm getting kind of lost with this, but I do feel like he needs to know what's really out there. Yeah. He does. Things aren't, at least with us, like things aren't handed to me. Mm-hmm. I've had to work for everything. Right. And I do want him to want to do things for himself.
Yeah.
Independent and know, hey, people are going to hurt you. Mm-hmm. Things are going to happen. But you have to learn how to work through it and not rely on somebody else mm-hmm. to fix your problems.
Yeah. Do you ever think to yourself that maybe with certain things, certain perspectives that you have, and understanding why you have those perspectives might be passing your trauma
100%.
onto him.
100%.
And
I'm very.
so how do you not respond that way? In other words, so I reading the book Myth of Normal, Dr.
Okay.
Gabor Mate. I think we talked about that.
Yeah.
He mentions that intergenerational trauma is it's prevalent, and a lot of the times our kids are exposed to our own trauma that they had nothing to do with.
I know. Yeah.
Like that was a question. That was the reason why I asked you that question. Do you think he's going to go through what you went through? And if you said no, definitely not. So then, what's the need of having him, of raising him to be a certain way, when we know he's not around that? For example, my biggest fear is poverty.
Okay.
That it's, I will go into an anxiety attack
Right.
just having that thought.
It's your nervous system.
Yes, that's exactly what my therapist told me. That's the way you respond, because throughout your life, you grew up impoverished, welfare, food stamps, not having what to eat.
Right.
I went through that, and I know that nasty feeling, and I don't want my girls going
Right.
through that. So when I'm not working, whether it be vacation, time off, it's like, oh my gosh. And my wife tells me, you're gonna be fine. You're not
safe.
raising them on your own.
Yeah.
You have my and it's like, yeah, I know. And she's like, you've been planning for this for X amount of years. You're ready. And it's like, I know. But that's, again, my nervous system responding to that fear of poverty. What has been your fear that you consciously know that you're passing down to him, but you want to stop?
Well, that's where, like, thankfully the somatic coaching has been of huge help. But some of the things that I noticed that, well, again, the poverty thing,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Yeah.
when we're stressing about our finances or anything like that, I really try not to let him be aware
Right.
of what's happening. Because for me, I found out that I feel unsafe
Yes.
because I don't have money, or I'm stressed out about bills, whatever it may be, right? Or I'm not booking enough gigs. And what I've learned is to remind myself is that I'm safe. Because at the end of the day, I still have running water. I have a roof over my head. I was able to feed myself and my child.
Mm-hmm.
We're good. I have clothes on my back.
You good? Yeah.
I'm good. I'm safe.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the things that I've tried to avoid. I can't really think of anything right now, to be honest with you, that I'm just like, oh, I'm passing this on.
Mm-hmm.
But anything that I am, I'm trying to work on it.
Yeah.
Like even my temper, I have a bad temper.
Really?
Oh yeah. I'm a Taurus. I'm very nice. I'm very calm.
Is that where the hood comes out from you?
Yeah. Like if you poke the bull, you
get
know
the
that
horns.
that you're at the horns. Yeah, for sure. You know, but even that, like my mom was always screaming and angry, and you know, so obviously that had to go somewhere, and it went to me. Yeah,
Contributed to your temperament.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You know, I think I shared with you this study from the Guzman Institute that talked about a mother's third trimester.
Yes, you did.
The stress level, anxiety, all the emotions have a huge impact in determining the child's
100%.
temperament.
Yeah, I believe that's passed on through our DNA.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
that, like 100%. Like it's, and that's why, like when my son is having a tantrum and he can't process, I notice he has a hard time processing
Right.
what's happening to him. And while I want to be angry, I'm actually not. I feel really sad that he can't.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and he's having a hard time comprehending. Like he'll tell me, I can't breathe. I have a hard time breathing.
Yeah.
And that's because his emotions are so heightened, he can't figure it out. You know, and I'm like, calm. You know, like I'm trying to practice with him breathing and things like that. So.
Do you think that was passed down to him?
Oh, 100%. 100%.
And I don't mean to sound disrespectful, but how does that make you feel?
Oh, it makes me feel really, really bad. You know, but then, you know, like his dad, he likes to run away from everything. He doesn't want to process the feelings. So it's a 50-50 thing.
Yeah.
You know, it's half me, half him.
Yeah.
You know, and we're realizing it now.
Mhm.
We see how our trauma, our just our being, our way of being is, you know, who our son is.
Yeah.
You know, and that's a really hard thing to process, you know, but we're trying. We see it and we're not like, well, let's just spank him, you know, and he'll get over it. You know, one of the biggest arguments that we kind of will have is like, Alejandro will not raise, his dad will not raise his voice to my son. He won't. And like, you have to have the scary dad voice, right? Like, everybody has the scary dad voice. And he flat out told me, that may work for you, but I never want my son to fear me. And I have to respect that. Yeah. You know, so.
What would be one thing that you don't want? So Alejandro's is not raising his voice. What would be one thing that you wouldn't do to him?
Well, besides like never laying my hands on him,
Yeah.
I would never want to dismiss his feelings. I feel like that's a huge thing with so many, I don't know if it's just us Latinos in general, but I feel like I've seen it a lot in our culture. It's just like, oh, well, I did the best I could. You didn't have it that bad.
There's always an excuse for it.
There's always an excuse for it.
Yeah.
And to me, it's like, okay, you did what you did, but you can at least acknowledge how we felt. And it's like our perspective is never allowed.
I can totally see that.
And that's so annoying.
Especially with feelings. And you brought up culture. Again, in my Mexican culture, as being raised as a boy, feelings were not tolerated. I remember many times, actually remember one time, finishing elementary school, how devastated I was because I knew I was going to see a lot of my friends again. And I remember crying. And my older daughter just finished elementary school, and seeing her cry triggered me back to the way I was. So there I am, like sitting and just.
You can relate to her.
Yeah, exactly. I can totally relate to her. I had a conversation with her, and I told her, I said, you know, Brie, I'm proud of you for showing your emotions. And she said, you've always told me that all my feelings are okay. And I cried there again.
Oh, that made me cry.
Like, yeah, and this is where we break that cycle, because feelings are important. My Joy, my little firecracker, she has a temper, and I can tell you exactly why she has that temper, and all fingers point to me. And one time she was really upset, and she was raising her voice, and I said, "Stop yelling at me. You said all my feelings are okay. And I feel like yelling right now. So you have to respect that." And I'm like, "Oh, baby." And
I know when they put you in your place, you're like, and that's the thing though. I think that is so great that she's allowed to say what she wants to say. I mean, for us, it's like you couldn't even say what you wanted to say.
What would the outcome be in your case?
Oh my! I would have gotten beaten.
5 across.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You know, are the biggest thing I hated hearing because I said so. That is so, like, what does that even mean? And I catch myself saying it every now and then. I'll go, I'm sorry, I did, like, I don't want you to jump off the table because it can slip. You can crack your head open. You know, like, I catch myself. But that whole, because I said so, come on. Come on. We can do better than that.
Yeah. Just like the fact that you're giving it an explanation, I think it's important because children need to know. You know, children they see themselves as immortals. They're invincible. They overestimate their abilities. That's developmentally. That's what they go through. And when we don't give them the logical explanation into why we're trying to keep them safe, then in their mind it's like, you just don't want me to do it.
Yeah, and I respect that frustration. You know, I'm like, yeah, like as a kid, I'm like, well then, why?
Yeah.
Why? Like they're inquisitive,
Yeah.
you know?
Yes, exactly.
They're supposed to ask questions. They're
Right.
supposed to.
Yeah.
We're supposed to inform them why we're trying to keep them safe.
And keeping them safe, not just physically but also psychologically.
Right.
I think as parents is one of the things that um, I'm learning how to get better at. Psychological maltreatment is one of the other abuse aside from neglect that's kind of hard to identify because you don't really see the damage.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. In my family, many times I've heard it through uncles, aunts, my grandma. I heard my mom tell me, "Oh, you turned out to be okay," and it's like if you're classifying okay based on my academic achievements, my career, my tangible, okay, then yeah, I get it. But what's in here and what's in here, something that you don't see, I would really argue me being okay about it. And again, that has a lot to do with the psychological maltreatment that's not seen. Um, did you experience that growing up, where it was like, hey, as your mom, I'm raising you right because I'm not beating you up, but psychologically, they're tearing you down. Did you experience psychological maltreatment growing up?
Oh my God, yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, one of the biggest things. So it's so funny that you say that. Like when I was younger, my mom has always been in the fashion industry. That's kind of how I
Okay.
kind of got,
Yeah.
my way in that sense. Like I started to develop my artistry. But my mom always wanted me to do modeling as a kid.
Mhm.
Being a 13, 14-year-old girl is extremely hard, right? So, but she would always body shame me,
Mm.
always. And then would put me down for not wanting to model. But yeah, I was told, you have broad shoulders, you're too skinny, you're too this, you're too that. How was I supposed to be confident modeling when I had my own parent bringing me down?
Mhm.
Or every time I was telling her about a problem that I was having in school, it was led with judgment, shame, and just how I was wrong all the time. So yeah, the psychological part, I mean, it's always been
And
there.
that all comes back to dismissing your feelings,
Mm-hmm.
because this is what I want for you, and this is what I want you to do. And it's like, forget how you feel. I don't care what you're thinking. This is what you need to do. And if you put that in perspective, that's another way of me telling you, just do what I do, just do what I want you to do, and that's it, right? So it's you're non-existent. I'm the parent. You do as I say because you're my property. Which again, it's another cultural way
Well,
of thinking.
I don't understand this whole other thing also with, I feel like, and it's in our culture, it's like you should just do what they say because they are your parent.
Yeah. Yes.
Like I don't understand that. Well, you have to listen to them. Well, why? Why am I not allowed to have my own ideas?
Yeah.
Well, because they know what's best for you. But do they all the time?
Mm-hmm. So
I don't know.
here's
No, I don't know. I don't think so.
it's so interesting in the way that culturally children are raised is when they're being raised by very traditional parents, the parents constantly make decisions for the child.
Right.
The child eventually grows up, and then the child is expected to make decisions, but they can't. They don't know how, right? Whether it's where do you want to eat, what do you want to wear, what do you want to do with your life.
Yeah.
Uh, why don't you tell me? I mean, you've been telling me my entire life. Now
Right.
you expect for me to make a decision, and that's a very interesting dynamic because it's completely opposite into what we want to do, especially at Pacific Oaks Children's School, is we want to build children's autonomy, independence.
Right.
In the child development field, we raise children to be autonomous. We raise children to be independent, to have that confidence, self-efficacy. But if culturally we're not doing that, then as adults we start to struggle, and we
Well-
need to understand why. So it's what I'm getting at. It's not that there's something wrong with me or you or anyone else. Is that we were raised this. We're a product of our parents' trauma, environment, what have you.
So it's one of the biggest struggles that I've had in my career and just being an adult was, again, this is going to sound horrible, and this is for lack of a better words, but being average. And when I say that, it means I wasn't taught to follow my dreams, follow, nobody told me I could be a makeup artist. I figured that out on my own. What I was taught was make sure that you just get a good job that has insurance and that you have a steady paycheck. Average. Okay. And in the industry I'm in, like I said, I heard the saying, it's like, you want to know why average people are average is because they don't want to be bothered. Okay. Being being different, stepping outside of your comfort zone is very uncomfortable, and you're going to be bothered. Right. People are going to say things that you don't like. You're going to go through things that you never thought that you were going to go through. You're going to feel uncomfortable. Right. So this whole idea where it's like, just stay, level. That's all you need. But I want something bigger than that. And that's really hard for me because I'm constantly having the people around me saying, well, you need to lower your standards.
You're thinking too much.
You're thinking too much.
You're being unrealistic.
You need to be realistic and realize that you're not going to get that far in life.
Right.
Why? Why
it's
can't
complacency that we fall into.
Why can't I be that? Right. Why? Who made up the rules and said that I can't be better than what you thought I was going to be? Why?
Right. Do you think that attributes to past generations?
I think,
that mindset?
I mean, okay, so what I also learned from somatic coaching is like what we had to do to survive, what our parents, grandparents had to do to survive. Obviously, there was a lot of violence, Yeah. And unfortunately, that has been passed down. For me, I just wish that whoever we're surrounding ourselves with, for me, it's mainly like my family members and even my husband's family members. It's like always trying to bring me down, instead of being like, you should try it, go for it. I hope you do well. Nope, it's never that. It's like, no, you really shouldn't. And it's just like, what am I supposed to tell my son?
Right.
Go ahead and work a corporate job your whole life, and just make sure you're there for the rest of your life until you're ready to retire. That's not what I want for myself. Right. And one of the biggest things I tell my son is like, don't doubt yourself.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah.
I always tell him because he does have an artistic side to him, and I obviously love that. I obviously love that. And with that, I can see him second guessing things when he's doing it right. And I look at him, I go, don't doubt yourself. And he's like, and now he repeats that to himself. Don't doubt yourself. You got this, Joaquin.
Yeah.
He'll tell himself
I love that. Yeah.
And I love that I was able to tell him, you can do it.
Right. One of the things that I admire you of doing is finding a way to break the cycle of intergenerational trauma.
It's been hard. It's very lonely. I'm not going to sit here and say it's been easy.
Yeah. What makes it lonely?
The lack of support.
From?
My family and his family, my husband's family.
Do you think it's just that they don't understand it or they don't acknowledge it? What do you think
Both.
It is?
They don't want to understand it and they don't want to acknowledge it. They don't
want to be bothered?
Exactly. They don't want to be bothered. Yeah. I mean, we were like pretty much laughed at when we told them we're going to a private school. Why? You can just send them a public school. Yeah. Why? What are you doing that for?
Wow, I can't imagine that feeling of not having that support. Where do you find your support?
I have found it, believe it or not, through the the interactions I've had with you.
Thank you.
No, I mean it's minimal, right? We've had one group of friends where we were at one preschool with each other, and we moved over to Pacific Oaks together. They actually brought me to Pacific Oaks, but my support system is honestly very it's pretty much not there. So it's just my husband and I who have to do this on our own, and that's very hard. You know, yeah, they'll like, if I want, my son has never been babysat, only one time, and that's when we went
Oh,
to the gala.
yes,
That
yes,
was
the fundraiser.
5 years old, and he's only been babysat once. You know, but it's hard for me to have my son being taken care of by my family members who don't understand the way he is.
Right.
You know, when they see him throw a tantrum, they're like, I would have hit him already. That's the first thing that always comes out of their mouth. You need to smack him. You need to hit him. Why? Or if he's bouncing around, jumping, he's not allowed to be a kid. I actually just lost a friend since I was in the 6th grade because her husband disliked the way my son was being a kid. Because he's a military man and he's decided to raise his child off of fear. And his child is very compliant with everything he says because my son was being himself. He didn't like it. And obviously, you know, stuff happened and I was like, bye.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just a difference in how you raise your kids, and it sounds like your approach is more of accepting his decisions. Obviously, not he's not going to go out there and do something that's going to put himself in danger, someone else in danger. Those are the boundaries. But let me ask you this question. I think I've asked you this question before. Is it hard for you and your husband? What do you guys feel when you see Joaquin feeling uncomfortable?
Well, first it makes me uncomfortable. I would rather him not, and I'm just trying to like remove him from the situation, you know, but I know that it's not reality. Like I have to help him process it, you know, so we kind of just write it out with him, and we're uncomfortable, but we're just kind of there for him.
One of the things that I learned as a parent was helping them problem solve. And when they get uncomfortable, obviously they're going through something that it's challenging them not to be average, right? So it sort of, it becomes a task for us into saying, okay, how can I help you get out of your comfort zone and grow from this experience, but not rescuing you from it. And a lot of it has to do, again, going back to their nervous system, how our nervous system responds. I want to ask you this. You've gone through a lot. You're doing a lot now. And everything that you're doing sounds like it's making you a better person. If you can reach out to our audience that resonates with this conversation and give them some advice, what would that advice be?
Educate yourself on child development. I mean, and really try and help heal any trauma that you've experienced as a child. You know, like I feel like part of the reason why my family doesn't understand what we're going through is because they don't want to learn or educate themselves on what the child is going through. So just educate yourself, be open-minded, and really heal yourself if there is any trauma. It has to be healed.
Right. Very deep conversation. I appreciate everything that you brought to us. Thank you for being vulnerable. Thank you for feeling safe, and hopefully this resonates with our audience. I sincerely want to thank you for taking a stand into breaking intergenerational trauma, breaking the cycle of abuse, because it starts with us. And thank you for being that pioneer. And we're going to be right there.
I'm trying, guys. We can do it.
You're doing an excellent job. Thank you very much. Till the next time, stay safe, stay healthy.
Capture the passion.